company saying that this doesn't work. And I tell them, did you restart? It works, right? So, yeah, so today, I'm not going to cover the entire tech spectrum or what we want you to go back with. I'm going to cover a part of it. My focus today is going to be on security and resiliency, and I am going to put forward certain arguments as to why you need Veeam for a great security posture or to make sure that your data is resilient. But before we get into those arguments or before we go there, I'm going to also tell you, about some certain views which are not exactly Veeam views, but I think whatever is happening, whether those are geopolitical things or whatever is happening around the world in terms of technology, and how does that tie down to this particular security and resiliency topic which we are going to talk about. So, if you see, all the civilizations in the world today have been shaped, with no exception, with two forces. One is the force of innovation, and the second is the force of preservation. While the force of innovation likes to greet present and the future with change, it actually demands change. It insists change. Sometimes it changes identities. And it believes in a core principle, which I think Socrates invented, of incessant questioning. And those questions can sometimes be very uncomfortable. On the other side, the force of preservation wants to lock down the things as they are. If there is something which is perplexing you today or what you want to do in future, the force of preservation wants you to look back in time, go there, find a solution and apply it for today or what is going to shape the future. These forces, if you were to visualize, I can say, if you visualize a pendulum, in a perfect world, the pendulum will not move because the force of preservation and the force of innovation will act on it equally. However, if there is imbalance, it's going to sway a lot. Now, we will never have a perfect world, right? So there will be a little sway. And I want to basically, quantify this more. So I'll give you an example. I'm sure, either you've heard of Sweden or you have been to Sweden. Sweden is a good example of that balance. For last 200 years or 2 centuries, Sweden has been, I won't say perfectly balanced, but somewhere there. Swedes vote for socialists when they want change. And when they want things to slow down, they will vote for conservatives. It's a country of about, I think, 12 million or 13 million people, good economy, great GDP, and more important, people are happy. So that's a world which we should be striving towards. However, imbalance is integral part of our lives. The biggest example I wanted to start with is Spanish conflict, which started in the year 700s and went for 8 centuries till 1492. Spain was like Renaissance period, right? I mean, they accepted change. There were tons of innovations. They were a very, very accepting culture, and there were numerous religions which were living there harmoniously. And there was a sense of a force of innovation which was for good. But then the fanatics up north decided that they wanted to unify Spain, and they unleashed a brute force to basically displace and kill that movement or that Renaissance, right? Which ended up in 1492 with Columbus moving towards or taking an expedition to Americas, and we all know what happened. He managed to actually kill millions and scores of Native Americans. And this was the momentum which Spain carried. This was a force of preservation. They had such a momentum which lasted for 300 years. And post that, we all are aware how English challenged them, and we also were the affected party. But then cut to 1900. Again, the force of innovation took over. And in 1900s, there were numerous times where we did some path-breaking stuff. We put man on moon. There is absolutely no parallel to that. Even if you look at the current innovations, we put man on moon. There was an industrial revolution. We found locomotives, or we invented locomotives. We also invented a nuclear bomb. But there were a lot of innovations till 1975. After 1975, things kind of slowed down because the governments in West, where all these things were happening, wanted the force of preservation to prevail. I think so the US president was Nixon, and he wanted things not to change so rapidly. Right? So actually put a stop to it. Till about 2000, when we had internet. And that was a platform which actually gave a spur to innovation. And now, cut to 2020, we are talking about the era of AI. Whether you want to talk about AI, generative AI, agentic AI, whatever. But I'm sure all of you would agree that last decade was about more theoretical about AI. The next 25 years are all going to be about application of AI. So there is no doubt about that. This is what is going to happen. But the point is that this revolution or this force of innovation is going to bring two sides to it, which is good and also the bad part, right? So there has to be a force of preservation which prevails. And as leaders in technology, I'm sure you have influence. So somewhere, we will have to say or basically counter the force of innovation, which will do more harm than good. So I'm not trying to paint AI as a bad actor or a villain. It is going to be a great innovation. And a few slides down the, when I talk about Veeam's use of AI, it's great, right? So I'm not trying to paint that as a villain. But there have been three triggers which I think are going to basically define the technology architecture or technology landscape in future. The first one is quantum scale or quantum computing. It is no longer a R&D project. NIST last year advised that practical quantum computers are on the horizon. They gave a 10-year timeline. And why does NIST care about it? Because a good practical quantum computer will shatter all the known cryptographic standards today we know or are implemented in your customer's data center. It will shatter everything. Just to give you some perspective, if you follow this, Google announced Windows last year. It solved a problem in 5 minutes, which a fastest supercomputer could not have solved for at least 8 to 9,000 years. That's the massive, power which quantum computing is going to bring. Now, while NIST puts a 10-year timeline, I don't think so. I'm very pessimistic about it. I think that somewhere, maybe in China or Russia or wherever you want to say, there is a practical quantum computer which is being developed, and this will hit us sooner than later. It could be 3 years. Are we ready for it? The answer is absolutely not. Because the way today the architectures are built, they are hardwired into the data centers, which is going to make life for us extremely tough. We all know about GenAI. We have heard about DeepSeek, right? US tried to corner China. They denied technology along with its allies, Japan, Netherlands, UK, but China prevailed. So there is a race to build good AI or basically better AI implementations in future. The next question is going to be the power required to power this AI. I think today morning on airport, someone showed me that Dell closed a $4 billion to supply hardware for building a AI park. Great news, right? But who's going to power it? How are these things going to be powered? So we can't obviously turn to the existing sources. You have to turn to solar. That's the next power, which is going to power our servers. And guess who's the leader in that? It is China. 80% of today's manufacturing for solar, the entire supply chain is controlled by China. That's why I'm saying it's going to be GenAI nationalism. It's going to be, I don't know who's going to win and who's going to be denied, right? But I'm sure even we are going to be an affected party. The third trigger, I wanted to discuss is nothing to do with technology, but if you followed Davos 2025, all the financial gurus agree that world is seeing huge debt crisis. We are today sitting on USD 100 trillion plus of debt, which is unprecedented. The richer nations, US, UK, Japan, have crossed 100% of GDP to debt ratio. Japan is sitting on 200%. US is somewhere around 140%. I don't know about UK exactly, but they have crossed 100%. And the funny part is that, these nations, the rich nations in West, get to borrow money at 1/3 the cost of what we pay in Asia. And Africa is even worse. Now, why is this important? It is important because next years we will be servicing these debts, which means the bulk of the revenues which government have are going to go to service the interest payments. And the priorities for education, healthcare, infrastructure are going to go down. And what is the overarching thing over this? Technology. So we will see lesser and lesser impetus on technology. Now, on one hand, we see that technology is rising rapidly. Right? I mean, supercomputing, quantum computing, GenAI, and on the other side, we have nations who will be disadvantaged. So, while there are many things which will go wrong, I want to talk about one specific thing, which is security. Security which concerns our digital assets. Now, that's what I'm going to focus on. But you will say, okay, how is this all connected with Veeam? One thing I can surely tell you is, with all these complications, in my technical mind at least, having a decoupled and a software-oriented architecture helps. If you have hardwired appliances, it's not going to be easy for you to change so easy, quickly. Software-defined architectures are going to help you tremendously, and Veeam is committed to a 100% software world, agnostic of any hardware. And of course, we are not going to do it alone. We have our partners. We have our partners sitting here in the room. We have our OEM partners. And you saw the slide where we have a huge security ecosystem. So everyone is going to play a part. I'm not saying that we are going to solve the entire thing. But from now on, I'm going to focus on what we can do to make this better. So these are some stats. This is from World Economic Forum. All the professionals agree that AI and machine learning technologies have the maximum impact when it comes to the vulnerabilities or ransomware-like situations. What are the views of CXOs, whether it is CISO or CEO? Cyber skill gaps. This is the biggest one. You go to your customers today and you will realize that the skill gap is maddening. I was with, just last week, we have been dealing with one, I would say, an enterprise customer. It's It's a platform for trading, and I was appalled by the level of understanding and the skills which are there in-house. So surely they need help. Of course, they are also saying they need help. But this is a great opportunity for both of us to go and make that joint pitch as to how we can provide that external expert help to make things better for them. AI and emerging tech, no doubt, this is going to be a big factor when it comes to cybersecurity. Regulatory requirements are not going to go down, whether it is SEBI, whether it is RBI, it's only going to increase in the future. Supply chain interdependence, geopolitical tensions, right? I'm not going to go too deep into this. This is one interesting chart I thought, and look at the CEO and CISO views. Ransomware attack, CISOs think that's a major one, while CEOs are not discounting it. The other thing is, cyber-enabled fraud. This is where CEOs are extremely concerned. I think both are little related, but still, this is a good view from a CEO perspective and a CISO perspective. Now, this is a study which Veeam embarked on. We reached out to 2,000 plus organizations, and you have seen this figures multiple times. Right, almost 85 to 86% of those organizations had one attack at least. And 81% of the organizations decided to pay ransom. 68% of the financial impact is attributed to costs other than ransom payment. And I'll come to this, this is very important. It is not only about making a payment to the threat actor, it's also about the impact that particular vulnerability or that particular attack has. In the developed economies, we have seen 1900 plus attacks in 2023 alone. All the threat actors today realize that backup is the last resort. 96% of the times, the threat actors will go and attack the backups. 76% of the times, these attacks were actually, successful. And this also alludes to the fact that customers may have best of the tools, but they misconfigure, they forget things, right? And this is where that external help comes in handy. Can we jointly make sure about the configuration drips? Make sure that the security best practices are enabled. Of course, I'm not saying this will be done free, right? All this will mean revenues for you, will mean revenues for us. This chart shows two things. One is that ransomware resolution rates have decreased over last 2 quarters. So it is right now standing at 32%, which is a good thing, which means that the security posture is somewhere increasing, or the security firewalls which customers have built are being successful. Look at the payment. Average ransomware payment is 390K, median is 170K. Mathematically, I think so median payment figures make more sense, but these are